How are you? Welcome again. More Hungarian. No, don't turn off your set. You have not seen this show. Today, our Hungarian friends are our immigrant ancestor group. But their food is so good, and their culture is so colorful, and they're so brilliant, that I had to do 2 shows on them. Now, if we didn't do 2 shows on your culture, don't write me and complain. I'm just hopped up on Hungarian culture. Fascinating people, and I can't quite explain why they're so unusual. But if you look in the map, you can see that Hungary is right in the middle of other Eastern countries, Romania, Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, Austria. See a lot of Slavs about, but they're not Slavs. They're descendants from a most interesting tribe called the Magyars, which came into the land just after the fall of the Roman Empire, 400 AD. So that's 1600 years ago, and these are the people who gave birth to what we now call the Hungarians. Following the First World War, some of you kids don't understand that we've not done much about the wars except succeeded in numbering them, you see. But anyhow, when the Second World War was over, the First World War was over, they began coming to this country. Communism rose, and the immigrants that came here were just fascinating people. Hungarian Americans. Listen to this. I've just got some fascinating things to tell you today. Hungary, by the way, was the first country in the Eastern Soviet bloc to lift the Iron Curtain. Now, that is no small matter. That's a very important matter, and we should salute them for that. I remember when it happened. I hope you do. Well, the first immigrant that came to this country was probably a fellow by the name of Stryker, who was on board with Leif Erikson. That is 1,000 years ago, and he came to this country. He didn't live here long. I think he drowned off the coast. But anyhow, following this, a lot of Jesuit missionaries came during the 1600s, Protestant dissenters, some explorers, and a fellow by the name of Colonel Michael Kovács, who was a great horseman, established what we call the U.S. Cavalry, and he established it during the American Revolution. He was Hungarian. Augustin Harasi brought European grapes to the Sonoma Valley and started the American wine trade. He was Hungarian. And in our time, Joseph Pulitzer, the newspaper man, he was a Hungarian. And he was the one who thought up the idea of covering sports and putting it in the newspaper. We'd never done that. And then he came up with the idea of putting comics in the newspaper. We'd never done that. And then he came up with using illustrations in the newspaper. We had never done that. The Pulitzer Prize now for literature and for great reporting is just one of the great treasures of the American literary circles. He was a Hungarian. Or the physics, the physicists and the physics. The atomic research that was done was primarily due to Hungarians. And the supersonic flight, the radio telescope, holographs, the long-playing record, colored television, all Hungarians behind them. And in the movies, remember Zukor and Fox, the biggest moguls in all of Hollywood? They were Hungarians. And others, too. Remember the Gabor sisters? How could you forget? Tony Curtis, you didn't know he was Hungarian, did you? Bela Lugosi, Harry Houdini, and in music, one of the greatest composers of our century, Béla Bartók, is, of course, a Hungarian birth. And Fritz Reiner, these are all conductors, the best. Fritz Reiner, George Szell, Eugene Ormandy, Anatol Dorati, George Solti, they're all Hungarian. Now, how do you answer the question as to why the Hungarians have added so much? Well, one theory is that there was a school in Budapest, a secondary school, just as, your first school. And they were so brilliant at helping people be creative that out of that school in Budapest, most of these people came from Budapest. Out of those school systems in Budapest came wonderful things. Now, we've been to Budapest. Craig and I went to Budapest to look for food. Here's Craig looking at these are my home slides, so don't back off on me. This is the Parliament houses, it looks like a big palace. Wonderful, and I can't remember whether we're on the Pest side or the Buddhist side because the city was divided and then reunited just about 100 years ago. I think we're on the Pest side, but with my luck, it's probably wrong. In any case, I want you to see the markets. Look at the peppers. Aren't they gorgeous? Now, these dried peppers are paprika. You grind them up and make your own paprika, but of course, Hungarians aren't going to buy it ground. They buy it in the whole shell. She's been there for years and years in the market called the Tolbolkan market. It's a wonderful place. You've got to go. No, it's not expensive. Yes, you can go to Hungary. And fresh peppers, see the ones on the right are the typical Hungarian pepper. We can't get them in this country very often, but they're wonderful things. And the other thing that they love, aren't they beautiful? Look at that. They put them in everything. Stews, salads, they're just heavenly things. The other thing they love are radishes. Now, you don't understand the size of that radish. So Craig is going to demonstrate. He found, look at that. He found a bundle on the street. There's no shortage of food in this city. He found a bundle and he dared me to eat one. And so, of course, I do what I'm told. It was sweet and mild and wonderful, but it's the size of a very large golf. Wait, you can't see a large golf ball. Anyhow, it's bigger than a golf ball. And look at the pickles. They pickle all of these peppers. And Peter isn't in on this. Peter Piper has nothing to do with this. This is Hungarian. And she's in the public market called Tolbolkan. You must see it. This gal makes her own sauerkraut and peppers. She and her husband, been there for years. Look at it. Isn't it wonderful? Oh, so proud of this stuff. And the sausages that you find in that city, we saw no lines for food. Or maybe 5 or 6 people, maybe 10 people in a line, but not the kind of thing that you hear about in Moscow. Look at the sausage factories. Aren't they gorgeous? Got to show you one more. I just love it. I just love it. That whole city is filled with wonderful food, and the restaurants. Oh, you'll have a good time. I don't know what to say to you except that you must figure out a way to go. One of the things that you'll find, of course, will be peppers. And these peppers, these are the dried ones that they call paprika. Aren't they gorgeous? And you just grind these up. I just think they're beautiful things. I brought these home. No, it's all right to bring in dried foods. I can just hear one of you saying, how come the Department of Agriculture didn't catch him? Well, it's all right. They did catch me once. I had 3 salamis in my bag from Italy. And this stinker at the at the airport in Seattle saw me get off the plane and knew who I was. So he walked up to me and he said, now you have to watch this. Can't bring in meats of any form, even dried one. He said, Mr. Smith, I know who you are. What have you got in that bag that's illegal? And I said, nothing. What do you mean? I didn't know you couldn't bring in dried sausages. They took my Italian sausages. Broke my heart. The other way that you can buy paprika is in big bags. Look at this. This is a kilo of paprika. Isn't that gorgeous? And if you look really closely here, well, you can't quite see that. It says Sega. This is the name of the village from which this paprika comes. On an American can, you see the same label. You see this? That's the village that tamed paprika and made it wonderful and sweet. Well, you just don't do anything in Hungary without paprika. I'll show you what I mean. First of all, I want to make some pancakes, Bologna style. We picked this dish up in a restaurant in Budapest, and it is so unusually good that I can't believe it. So let me show you how to make this. Come here, you. There we are. First of all, I've ground up about 1/2 pound of cooked chicken and 1/2 pound of cooked veal. I simply poached it in chicken broth. And now I'm going to add to that some gravy. And I've made paprika gravy the other day, so I hope you'll forgive me if I don't give you the recipe again. But it's lots of paprika and a good beef stock. Oh, it's heavenly stuff. You simply put that in with the meat. That's not enough. That's not quite enough. There we go. Put another one in there. There we go. That'll do us. And we'll stir that about. Now notice I'm using a metal spatula, so I'm going to spank myself. Don't ever put metal in your frying pans. You'll ruin them. How many times have I told you that, huh? How many? More than twice. So we'll warm that up. And while that's there, that's fine. We're going to use a kind of a cannoli wrapper, an Italian pasta thing. It's very, very easy to make. It's simply eggs and flour and a tiny bit of milk. You see, and you fry it just on one side. It doesn't even brown. That's in another book, but that's all right. Here we go. Now we need to take some, there we are. Take some of the filling and put it in the center here. This is the most unusual dish. We've got a wonderful paprika filling, and we'll fold it up thusly. All right? Then we're going to put it in a frying pan. Now catch this. We're going to use a little lard in the bottom of the frying pan. Lard? Well, that's the flavor that the Hungarians want. Now you render lard. I showed you this when we did the Hungarian show a couple of weeks ago. You see? You render your own lard. You don't buy it. This is just good fresh pork. We're going to fry it just a tiny bit. We don't want to go overboard on these things. We'll put one in and let it toast a bit. Let me make another one. We have time here, I think. This is the most wonderful first course. It's an appetizer that you just wouldn't believe. We had them at a place Oh, I can't remember the name of the place. I don't remember what it was. Well, Craig will show up in a bit to help you, and he'll remind me which restaurant it was. Hope he remembers. All right, we just want to cook these for a bit, just to heat them up. I need a lid for this. Now, I hope I remember to take them out. Turn them on low here. We're just barely going to brown them enough to heat up the center. By the way, if you have a handle sticking out from the stove, remember to send all of your children to the neighbors. It means you haven't learned how to cook. Look at this one, you see? Look at this, look at this. Shame on me, because a little kid will come by, hit his little head on the... No, put all of the handles in. All of the handles on the stove go in, never out. You understand why? Very dangerous, very dangerous. All right, let's make a sausage. I've got a wonderful sausage recipe for you. My friend Laszlo, incidentally, I should tell you about Laszlo. Look at this. Look at the handicraft here. Look at the seeds from the peppers. Look at the handicrafts that are here. These are all from Hungary. And Laszlo's from Hungary. He was an immigrant that ran during the communist invasion of Hungary. And the communist regime, I should say. And the things that he brought back help him remember who he is. Because he's Hungarian. When Craig and I were in Budapest, we found some eggs. When Easter comes, I'll be ready, you see. I don't have to, they're hollow, of course. You buy them in the market, all done like this. Here's a goose egg. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love the stuff. They look like they hang them on trees or something. I'm not sure what they do with them, but they're certainly beautiful. All right. We came through customs with so much stuff. The custom guys are always concerned about me when I come through the line. They're never quite sure what I'm up to. Now, to make a very good Hungarian sausage, and Laszlo was impressed with this. He said, my lord, it looks like it was made in Hungary. I was tickled by that remark. This is what you do. 3 pounds of coarse pork. You see, I've ground this up already. Coarse pork. How about pork ground coarse? Got that? 1 pound of beef and 1 pound of pork fat. Beef and fat. See? The fat is necessary to, no, you don't eat these every day. The fat makes it juicy. No, you don't eat them every day. Now, in a food blender, I have 1 cup of water. And I'm going to add 10 cloves of garlic. Oh, these are enormous. Look at them. Oh, is this going to be good garlic sausage? And to that, I want to add the seasonings. And the seasonings, a little bit of salt, about 2 tablespoons for, what have we got? 3, 4, 5 pounds of meat, you see. So 2 tablespoons, 1, 2. And then we want to add half tablespoon of black pepper. You better be quiet in there. You all right? You're done. Off. Turn it off. I grind my pepper fresh in a Turkish coffee mill, so I still have enough in here. Yes. That's good. About a half tablespoon. And then I want to add some. This is an interesting blend of spices. Just very interesting. 3 tablespoons of paprika. 3. Good heavens. 1. Well, these are really big tablespoons, I know, but this is sweet, wonderful paprika. The Turks brought the peppers into Hungary at the time of the Ottoman Empire, but they were too hot. And it was the finesse of the Hungarians that brought us this wonderful thing we now call paprika. And don't ever buy paprika in those silly little jars. Blech. And just use it for coloring. Go to a market that carries fresh paprika in a big jar in the bulk, preferably imported, and buy it that way and keep it sealed. And then your food will, then you'll be terrific. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon, 1 teaspoon of saltpeter, which is simply a normal household chemical, kitchen chemical, that helps keep the color in the meat. So the meat will stay pink instead of turning all gray on you. And some cloves, just a pinch. Grated cloves, about 1/4 of a teaspoon. Not grated, ground. Ground cloves. Whole cloves are all ground up. All right, now we'll grind that whole mixture into the water and have a solution, a saline solution. Oh, look at the color. Isn't that incredible? I love it. We have a saline solution containing our spices and herbs, and garlic, paprika, a little bit of clove, some salt and pepper. There. Be sure you grind it up long enough so that, see, that's fine. I don't see any lumps from the garlic. That really did the job. I love food blenders. I use mine just as often as I use my food processor. And mix this up. Mix it up. Now you can look at your hands. Isn't this fun? If you have a kid in the household, for heaven's sakes, when it's time to make this sausage, call him into the kitchen, because he'll have a field day mixing this stuff. Oh, the smell. You see, people who think paprika has no flavor have not tasted good paprika. They've tasted that that dried out stuff that you buy in those little bitty bottles for $2. It's too much money, and it's not fresh. It doesn't have any flavor. The smaller the unit in which you buy your spices, the less flavor you're going to have. Remember that. The smaller the unit, because the flavor was in the jar that they took it out of when they put it in that little stinky bottle. Now, I've got to excuse myself and go wash my hands. This is a mess. I love it. There. I admit it. The stuff will just barely come off your hands. Too much pig fat? Yes, I admit that. Too much cholesterol? Yes, I admit that. But every once in a while, when you're trying to remember that you're Hungarian, you make this. Now, you can put it into casings. And if that's the case, put it into casings like and make it like a, well, I'll show you. Make it like a Polish sausage and smoke them for about 1 hour and then dry them with a fan. I've got my fan going over here. There it is. And you see, I've hung them up to dry. And they dry for 2 days this way. It's perfectly all right. The salt preserves the meat with the fan on them, you see. It works great. At the end of that time, let me get one here. At the end of that time, you can put them in the refrigerator and they'll keep for a good week or so. But they sit out for 2 days and dry after you've smoked them for 1 hour. Isn't that a beautiful sausage? Isn't that gorgeous? I've cooked one in a pan for you. Let me find him here and put him on a platter. I've cooked him in lechko, which is a blend of fresh peppers. And you can, look at this. Isn't he gorgeous? Put him out here for you. In the midst of all of this color, I add more. Oh, I don't know. The place must explode just from color today. That's the sausage. You can also cook it with sauerkraut. Anything you want. You can put them in soups. The smokiness, oh, they're so good. Now, if you don't want to bother putting them in casings, simply roll them into little hand rolls and broil them and serve them with onions. Here we are. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, they're good. Hungarian sausages. All right. Now, I have so many things to show you. I can't believe it. There's a Liptauer cheese. We had this in a place in Budapest near the market. I didn't know what it was. I had to go home and do my research. It's cottage cheese that you drain for a couple of days, and then you mix it with paprika and ground caraway and a little garlic. It's just wonderful stuff. And it makes a whole meal, it seems to me. Gee, sausage. As a matter of fact, we did have a plate of sausage and a plate of Liptauer cheese. You've got it. I don't think I'm saying that right. I think it's Liptauer. Well, call me and tell me. I'm close. Craig, you've got a soup. Will you dish up the vodka soup? Yes, you heard me. Craig is going to dish up. What have you got in there?
Well, let me heat it up real quickly here.
Okay.
It's a fresh tomato soup with onion, garlic, little chicken stock, and, of course, paprika.
Of course. Okay, now you're going to put some vodka in that. That's what we had it.
Key.
Where did we have that?
This one came from...
was it Postakos?
It was either Postacozy or Mergerkert.
Mergerkert, yes.
They were both great.
Wonderful restaurants in that city. Fabulous. Okay, you add your vodka. How much are you going to put in there?
About 3 ounces, a couple shots.
Okay, but the soup must be hot when you put it in.
Very, very hot. This is not quite as hot as it should be, but the key here is to not cook out the vodka because you want to taste that a bit.
All right.
And if you're using good vodka, then it's going to be okay.
That's Russian vodka. That stuff's Stoli. Oh, outrageous. Okay, vodka soup. We have a, well, you dish it up. I'm going to reach underneath, back behind you here. I have it. Oh, that's hot. I have a chicken cooked in paprika. Chicken paprika. There we go. Ugh, excuse your foot there.
It's getting crowded back here.
You notice my kitchen is galley style, which is great for working unless the two of us are back here fighting. Don't run off yet. I need your help some more. Let's find out what's next. Another thing that's fun to do with Hungarian cooking is a sauerkraut salad, and they use these wonderful peppers. In our country, we get a pepper like very close to theirs. It's called a cubanelle. You see this? Aren't these gorgeous peppers? And this is one of the major ingredients, along with radishes, in a good sauerkraut salad. I know it sounds strange to you, but oh, is it good. Here you are. So a cabbage is another ingredient. And then you make a vinegar and oil dressing. Isn't that lovely? Vinegar and oil dressing. Here's the fresh pepper, you see. Vinegar and oil dressing, and of course, put some paprika in it, and then you've got it set. It's wonderful stuff. Now, I want to get the two bolkovny, the pancakes bolkovny out here, and put them on a platter. You see, the bottom is just a little bit toasty. See that? So you put that down, And of course, on the top of that, we're going to put some of this wonderful, wonderful gravy. I'm so proud of the fact that we figured this recipe out because it's very delicious. And it's not difficult to make. It takes some time. Ouch. There. A little bit on the top of each one. And then, of course, the other thing that they would do would put a dollop of sour cream right on the top of each one. And it comes to the table this way. And this is an appetizer. Well, you're going to say right now, good heavens, that would about do me. I'm going to put a pinch of paprika on the top, too. Isn't that beautiful stuff? There. The pancakes, I keep wanting to say potatoes, but they're not potatoes. They're pancakes. Pancakes bologna. That's a delicious thing. And look at these. Look at these. Peppers of all sorts. You see this big selection of peppers I have. They'll just serve these to you as a wonderful, let's put them over here. I'm running out of space. As a wonderful salad. Isn't that delicious? Look at that. These peppers are very mild. There's some of them are the American sweet bell peppers. Red ones, green ones, yellow ones. Well, let's look. I have the red, the green, the yellow here. But then I've added, where are the banana? Here. These are called banana peppers. And this is just my selection because I like them. These are banana peppers, and you slice all of these up along with your cubanelles and saute it for just a minute in a bit of olive oil and garlic. And if you want to put in some paprika, fine. One more secret. When you're cooking with paprika, you use oil in the pan first. And then you get the pan hot. Remember, hot pan, cold oil? Okay, get the pan hot, put in the oil, and then put in some paprika and toast it for just a little bit before you put in the vegetables or the soup or whatever it is you're trying to make. Toasted paprika is a major secret that I learned in Budapest. It's very interesting, and it's very different from what I'd known. All right, we have a couple more here. Here's another thing that I think is just wonderful, but it's embarrassing. It's goose liver. That's not embarrassing, but the way they serve it, in Budapest is just incredible. I suppose it came about because of the Habsburgs, the Austrian royalty that were in. That took over Hungary for such a long time during the big battles between the Ottoman Empire, the Turks, and the Habsburgs, the people who were from Austria. The Hungarians got into a weird habit of eating goose liver. And one method is to simply saute it, and you don't want to overcook it. But these are small pieces from leftover from American geese. I simply got these from my butcher. But Craig and I went to a place in Budapest, the one up on the hill. I can't remember the name of the joint. Very fancy. It was so fancy, we got up and walked out. Now, you didn't know that you could find restaurants that fancy in Budapest, did you? Well, you do now, because it's a wonderful place for eating. And they love tourists. You'll have no trouble getting along in the city. No, not everyone speaks English. It's not like going to Denmark. But it's a wonderful place, and you'd have a good time there. We found in this restaurant up on the hill, a very expensive place. The guy came to the table and he said, I want you to see the goose liver. It was one goose liver, the size of a meatloaf. And it was about $40 for a dinner. I couldn't do it. All I thought of was that poor goose. Well, how did they get him so big? I don't even want to think about it. There's another appetizer for you. Goose livers with a bit of light gravy on this wonderful red that marks it Hungarian, the color of paprika. That's what they want. All right. Finally, this one shocked me. I was very surprised to see it. But the Hungarians love it. They just love it. Find all my notes here. There we are. Okay. Here is a pancake, a good crepe, you see. At the end of a meal, very often in a nice restaurant, I didn't know what they were called. I couldn't figure out what they were eating. But they'll order a warm crepe. You can do this. See, it's not complicated. You just make your crepes ahead of time, and you'll have a good time with them. Well, that one's not going to come out of there. How about this next one? I have these sealed up in saran wrap so that, plastic wrap so that they won't dry out. And you can make them ahead of time and then refrigerate them. I think that's great fun. And this is what they do. Make a chocolate syrup, or you can even buy a can of Hershey's and add a bit of brandy to it and a bit of cream and then cook it down again so it thickens. Yes, we're going to make chocolate pancakes. This is just, and they just die for them. This is your dessert that I saw more often than practically anything else in Budapest in the way of desserts. This gorgeous. And now we want just a dab of of powdered sugar, just for a bit of class, you see. Isn't that fun? There you have a complete, well, more than complete. Did you ever see the chicken paprika? I don't think you did. There it is. There it is. Now, everything looks red. Everything looks red. Well, when we do the Norwegian show, you're going to see everything is white. So there are certain cultures that have a flair and color to their cooking. And today we've cooked red. We've cooked Hungarian. I love the food. We've made a Hungarian sausage that is smoked and filled with paprika. Pepper salads, this cheese mixture that I told you about, Liptauer cheese you'll love, chicken, beef, lamb, anything you want with paprika, and it makes a wonderful stew. And you can even make pancakes volkogni. Remember, Hungarians have given so much to this culture, and we should give them great thanks. So I'll do that now. Kosamun. Thank you very much. This is the Frugal Gourmet. Until I see you again, I bid you peace. Bye-bye.